Hello everyone, me again. We are now getting into chapter 3.3, which is graphing linear equations using intercepts. So first, we need to discuss the intercepts. So the first one we're going to talk about briefly is the x-intercept. So the x-intercept is the x-coordinate of the point when y is equal to 0. So when y is equal to 0, we have an x value, okay? Hence x-intercept, all right? Next, we have what is called the y-intercept. So this is the opposite, right? So this is the y-coordinate of the point when x is equal to 0. So when we substitute in x, it's going to be 0, then we're going to end up with the y-intercept, okay? So let's go ahead and apply that to a couple problems. Go ahead and erase this real quick. Alright, so they're going to ask you on your homework in the test to find the x and y-intercepts and they're going to go ahead and give you an equation. So this one we're going to look at is 2x minus 5y equals 10. Okay? Now, when you're giving your answers for these x and y intercepts, they're given as a point. Okay? So you need to keep that in mind. They're given as a point. So we're going to go ahead and solve for the x-intercept. So we're doing the x-intercept here, because y is equal to 0 and we're going to be solving for x. So let's go ahead and find this x-intercept first. So we need to substitute in the 0 for y. So I have 2x minus 5 times 0 equals 10, right? And we're solving for our variable of x, which we've done for a couple chapters now. So I have 2x, 5 times 0 cancels, right? Becomes 0. So we now have 2x equals 10. Divide 2 on both sides, so x is equal to 5. So once again, I said this has to be given as a full point for your answer. So your answer for the x-intercept would be 5, 0. Okay, 5, 0 for that x-intercept. All right, let's go ahead and do the y-intercept. So remember, this is when x is 0, we're solving for y. So x is 0, we're solving for y. So we're going to substitute this into our original equation. So I have 2 times 0 minus 5y is 10. 2 times 0 cancels, right? Goes away, becomes 0. Bring down that negative 5y. Make sure you don't forget that negative. Makes a difference. And then go ahead and divide both sides by negative 5. So y equals negative 2. 10 divided by negative 5, negative 2. Once again, remember, you have to give this as a point. So the y-intercept would be 0, negative 2. Okay? So you're going to find those intercepts. And what's nice is when you use this intercept method, it's quick and easy to graph, right? We have 2 points here. 2 points here, 5, 0, and 0, negative 2, that we can go ahead and graph. So we're going to go ahead and graph those. This real quick. All right, so we are graphing our intercepts that were 5, 0, and 0, negative 2. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and graph, right? We're going to draw our rectangular coordinate system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our negative 5. All right, so once again, we got a graph. So our first point is 5, 0. Remember that 5 is positive. It's the x-coordinate telling you to go right 5, and it's telling you to go up and down 0. So there's our first point. Next, we have 0, negative 2. So that 0 of the x-coordinate is telling you to go nowhere, and the y-coordinate, negative 2, is telling you to go down. So there's our second point. Remember, it's just like the last section. Connect the dots, extend the lines, and add your arrows. Okay, so that's nothing too crazy with finding the intercepts and graphing, okay? Finding the intercepts and graphing. So there's another example in the PDF of the notes that I have online for you with the whole numbers, but let's go ahead and do one that contains fractions, okay? Let's go ahead and do some fractions. All right, so we're doing the same thing. We're using our intercepts to graph, and let's look at y equals 3/2 x minus 3, okay? 3/2 x minus 3. Let's go ahead and do, which one do we want to do first? Let's do the x-intercept first, okay? So when y is 0, we're solving for x. So let's go ahead and do that one first. So we're going to go ahead and substitute in 0 for y. So this is a little different. This is 0 equals 3/2 x minus 3. So we need to solve for x, right? We need to get it by itself on one side of the equal sign. So remember, we just tested over this. So now we need to go ahead and add the 3, right? That doesn't have a variable to the other side since it's negative. So like I said, it's stuff we've already covered previously. So the 3's cancel. Now I have 0 plus 3 is 3 equals 3/2 x. Now, we've covered this previously as well. To get rid of the 3/2, we would multiply both sides by the reciprocal, right? 2/3. So now you need to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2/3. And this 3 that we have here now needs to become whole number 3/1. Okay, whole number 3/1. So the 3's are going to cancel. We're going to be left with a whole number 2. The 2's are going to cancel. Okay, so now this is going to become, and the 3's are going to cancel as well. I'm sorry, 3's are going to cancel as well. Become a whole number 1. So x is 2. All right, and your final answer you need to make is the point of 2, 0. Okay, so even though they gave you fractions, we've covered this stuff before. Refer to your notes right from like the last chapter if you're struggling with this part here. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the y-intercept. So now we're solving for x when y, or not when y is 0. We're solving for y when x is 0. Sorry, I'm getting them backwards. So we have x is 0, we're going to be solving for y. So let's go ahead and substitute that in. Y equals 3/2 times 0 minus 3. Well, what's nice is this 3/2 times 0 goes away and becomes 0. And y is equal to negative 3. Make sure you bring that negative down. So our answer for the y-intercept is 0, negative 3. Okay? And from here, we got a graph. Let's go ahead and quickly graph this one. So our intercepts were 2, 0, and 0, negative 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, so now we have 2, 0, right? 2 is telling you to go right 2, 0 is telling you to go up and down 0, and then we have 0, negative 3, so it's telling you to go right and left 0 and down negative 3. So there's our 2 points, right? Connect the dots, extend the line, add the arrows, right? Everything that we have already done before, okay? There's another one of those in the notes as well, if you are struggling with that, okay? All right, continuing on, believe it or not, we're almost finished with this section, okay? If they tell you to still graph using intercepts, and they give you x is 3. Well, we did this in the last section, right? We know how to graph x is 3. So, this is telling you that the x-intercept is 3. There is no y-intercept. It never crosses the y. Okay? Never crosses the y, right? And we did this in the last section, right? This is telling us to go right 3, 1, 2, 3, and our line would be, our graph would be vertical. Okay? So they may ask you to do that again. Okay, we're still doing the same thing with the intercepts, but let's say they gave us y equals -2. Okay, so this means that the y-intercept is 2 and there is no x-intercept. It never crosses the x. Okay, and like I said, we just did this in the last section, right? So y equals -2 is telling you to go down 2. So we go down 2, we have our dot, and we make our horizontal graph. Okay, our horizontal graph. All right, so same thing we did in the last section. They're just asking it a little bit differently, right? Throw you off. Okay, the last thing we're going to cover is they're going to ask you to find the coordinates. Bad eye. There we go. Find the coordinates of the intercepts from the graph. Okay, so find the coordinates of the intercepts from the graph. And they're going to give us a graph. Let's see here. And I've got... Alright, so I know my graph's not perfect on here. Okay. Hopefully you can kind of see it. If not, right, you have this in the PDF of the notes. Okay, so you can use that as reference if you can't see. So they're going to give you a graph and they're going to ask for the intercepts. Okay, they're going to ask for the intercepts. So let's go ahead and look at the x-intercept. Now, we know that we have an x-intercept when y is equal to 0, right? So remember, this is when y is equal to 0. And we're going to have our y-intercept of our graph when x is equal to 0. Okay, so y-intercept when x equals 0. So you're going to look at the graph and you're going to see where on the graph does it hit 0. So looking here for our x-intercept, we know we're going to have to move to the left 2 and up and down 0 here. So this is going to become -2, 0 from the graph. Now we're going to look at our y-intercept. When I'm going right and left 0 and I'm coming down, I'm crossing the axis here at -5. Okay, so then the y-intercept would be 0, -5. Okay? Alright, so 3.3, relatively short. The homework, once again, is on Canvas. If you have any questions, please let me know, and we'll come right back to it with section 3.4. Alright, see ya.